The USS Edsall was a Clemson-class destroyer named in honor of Seaman Norman Eckley Edsall, who displayed great bravery while serving in the U.S. Navy. Constructed by William Crampton's Sons Ship and Engine Building Company, she was laid down on September 15, 1919, launched on July 29, 1920, and commissioned on November 26, 1920, with Commander Arthur H. Rice, Jr. in command. Edsall was armed with four 4-inch 50-caliber guns, which provided her with moderate firepower for engaging surface targets. She was also equipped with a 3-inch 23-caliber anti-aircraft gun, offering a limited air defense capability. Additionally, the ship carried 12 21-inch torpedo tubes, arranged in 4 triple mounts, giving her a formidable ability to strike enemy ships with torpedoes. To enhance her anti-submarine warfare capabilities, she was outfitted with depth-charge tracks and throwers, allowing her to conduct anti-submarine operations effectively. Edsall was also equipped with sonar detection equipment, which allowed her to locate and track submarines, a vital capability during wartime operations. The destroyer's high speed and agility enabled her to perform screening duties for larger ships and execute torpedo attacks against enemy vessels with precision. Her sturdy hull and compact design allowed her to endure rough seas while maintaining optimal maneuverability in high-intensity engagements. Furthermore, her crew was highly trained in damage control, giving her a chance to continue fighting even under heavy enemy fire. The ship's ability to conduct rapid evasive maneuvers made her a challenging target for enemy ships, particularly in open sea engagements. Edsall's role as a multi-purpose destroyer allowed her to undertake various missions, including convoy escort, fleet defense, and independent raiding operations. Her endurance and fuel efficiency meant she could operate over extended periods without requiring frequent refueling, making her a valuable asset in long-range operations. The flexibility of her weaponry and speed enabled her to serve in both offensive and defensive capacities, adapting quickly to changing combat scenarios. After her commissioning, Edsall departed Philadelphia on the 6th of December 1920, setting sail for San Diego, California, for her shakedown cruise. She reached San Diego on January 11, 1921, and spent the remainder of the year conducting battle practice and gunnery drills with fleet units along the United States West Coast. By the end of 1921, she returned to the Atlantic, arriving in Charleston, South Carolina, on December 28. She was soon assigned to the Mediterranean, departing for Constantinople on May 26, 1922, reaching her destination a month later on June 28. During this period, the Near East was in turmoil. The aftermath of the First World War had left the region unstable, with Russia embroiled in a civil war and Greece at war with Turkey. The U.S. Navy maintained a presence in Turkish waters to safeguard American citizens and interests. Edsall played an integral role in humanitarian operations, assisting in the international relief effort aimed at alleviating the post-war famine in Eastern Europe. She also helped evacuate refugees, including thousands of Anatolian Greeks fleeing the Turkish nationalist forces after the burning of Smyrna in September 1922. On September 14th, she transported 607 refugees from Smyrna to Salonika, Greece, before returning to the devastated city 2 days later to assist further. In October, she transported additional refugees to Mytilene on Lesbos Island. While in the Mediterranean, Edsall frequently conducted gunnery and torpedo drills alongside her sister ships. Her service took her to numerous ports, including those in Turkey, Bulgaria, Russia, Greece, Egypt, Mandate Palestine, the Syrian Federation, Tunisia, Dalmatia, and Italy. She remained in these waters, carrying out diplomatic and naval operations until July 26, 1924, when she returned to Boston, Massachusetts for an overhaul. On January 3, 1925, Edsall set sail to join the U.S. Asiatic Fleet. Her journey included training stops at Guantanamo Bay, San Diego, and Pearl Harbor before reaching Shanghai on June 22, 1925. She quickly became a key component of the Asiatic Fleet, tasked with protecting American interests in the increasingly volatile Far East. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Edsall operated along the China coast, in the Philippines and Japan, conducting patrols, training exercises, and diplomatic visits. China was experiencing political upheaval, with warlords vying for control, and later, the country plunged into civil war. Edsall's duties often placed her in the midst of these conflicts, evacuating American citizens and providing protection to U.S. assets. Her assignments took her to Shanghai, Yantai, Hankou, Hong Kong, Nanjing, Kobe, Bangkok, and Manila. One of her more notable assignments took place in late October 1927 when she visited Bangkok and hosted 3 Thai princesses for tea. In appreciation, her captain, Commander Jules James, received an engraved silver cigarette case from the Thai royal family. Throughout the 1930s, Edsall played a prominent role in the ongoing Sino-Japanese conflict, particularly during the early years of the Second Sino-Japanese War. She was present in Shanghai during the infamous Shanghai Incident of 1932 and later witnessed Japan's full-scale invasion of China in 1937. During this time, she patrolled the Yangtze River and other strategic waterways, ensuring the safety of U.S. nationals and shipping. She frequently engaged in naval drills and maneuver exercises to prepare her crew for the increasing hostilities. Edsall's role in the region also included supporting diplomatic efforts, transporting American officials, and providing a naval presence in areas of strategic importance. As Japan expanded its territorial ambitions, the destroyer was often called upon to monitor Japanese fleet movements and ensure the security of American assets in the Pacific. Edsall and her division joined the heavy cruiser USS Houston and other U.S. forces at Surabaya on the 15th of December 1941, escorting vessels retreating to the relative safety of Darwin, Australia. In early 1942, Edsall guided the Pensacola convoy from Torres Strait back to Darwin. Following refueling operations in the Lesser Sunda Islands, Edsall and Alden were escorting the oiler USS Trinity toward Darwin in the Beagle Gulf, 40 nautical miles west of the city. On January 20, 1942, the Imperial Japanese Navy submarine I-123 sighted Trinity, misidentifying her as a transport. At approximately 0630, I-123 launched 4 Type 89 torpedoes. While the submarine's sound operator reported 1 hit, all torpedoes missed, with Trinity spotting 3 and alerting others. Alden searched for I-123, detected a sound contact, and launched a brief depth charge attack at 0641 before losing contact and abandoning the hunt. Later that day, Edsall, along with 3 Australian corvettes, HMAS Deloraine, HMAS Lithgow, and HMAS Katoomba, sank I-124 off Darwin, marking the first full-size submarine sunk with U.S. destroyer involvement in World War II. This action was referred to as First Blood, drawn by the U.S. Navy upon the Imperial Navy following attack on Pearl Harbor. The recovered codebooks were said to be instrumental in breaking Japanese naval and merchant codes that led to the ambush of the Japanese fleet off of Midway Island later in the summer of 1942. Edsall continued escort duties in northern Australian waters but sustained damage on January 23, 1942, when one of her own depth charges detonated during an anti-submarine attack in the shallow, 8-fathom Howard Channel. On February 26, she departed Cilacap alongside her sister ship USS Whipple to meet the converted seaplane tender USS Langley, which was transporting P-40E fighters and U.S. Army Air Forces personnel to aid in Java's defense. The next day, 16 Mitsubishi G-4M Betty bombers from the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service's Takao Kokutai, led by Lieutenant Jiro Adachi, attacked the convoy from Denpasar Airfield on Bali, escorted by 15 Mitsubishi A-6M2 Ryzen 0 fighters. Langley was critically damaged and had to be scuttled. Edsall rescued 177 survivors, while Whipple picked up 308. On February 28, the two destroyers met the oiler USS Pecos near Flying Fish Cove, Christmas Island, about 250 miles southwest of Cilacap. A fresh wave of Japanese bombers forced Edsall and other ships to seek open waters. They steamed south into the Indian Ocean through high winds and heavy seas for the remainder of the day. Between 0430 and 0815 on March 1st, all of Langley's crew were transferred to Pecos. Whipple then proceeded to Cocos to escort the tanker Belita, while Pecos, carrying roughly 700 survivors from Langley, Stewart, and Houston, was ordered to Australia. Edsall was instructed to return to Cilacap, carrying 31 USAAF pilots and ground crew who had been aboard Langley. These personnel were assigned to reassemble and fly 27 crated P-40 fighters that had arrived in Cilacap aboard the cargo ship Sea Witch. Following her orders, she changed course at 0830 and steamed northeast toward Java. On March 1, 1942, Edsall was intercepted by a powerful Japanese task force, including the battleships Hiei and Kirishima, the heavy cruisers Tone and Chikuma, and multiple destroyers. The vastly superior enemy force unleashed a relentless barrage of shells and torpedoes, but Edsall, demonstrating incredible maneuverability and determination, managed to evade many of the incoming rounds. She skillfully deployed smokescreens and executed sharp turns, frustrating the Japanese gunners and prolonging the engagement far longer than expected. Edsall fought courageously, launching torpedoes in a desperate attempt to inflict damage on the enemy warships. Although heavily outmatched, her crew exhibited remarkable discipline under fire. The skill shown by Edsall in dodging extensive shelling during an extended engagement reportedly led some of the Japanese naval personnel involved to refer to the American vessel as the Dancing Mouse. The Japanese warships expended over 1,335 shells in their attempts to destroy Edsall, but their gunfire was largely inaccurate due to her erratic movements. Eventually, she was immobilized by coordinated airstrikes from dive bombers launched from the aircraft carriers Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu. The dive bombers scored direct hits, crippling her propulsion and leaving her dead in the water. With no means of escape, the destroyer was subjected to merciless shelling from the Japanese surface fleet. Despite her dire situation, Edsall continued to fire her guns, her crew determined to fight to the last. Reports from Japanese officers later recounted admiration for the destroyer's resilience and defiance. At 1722, the Japanese ships resumed their attack on the destroyer. A Japanese cameraman, likely aboard the cruiser Tone, recorded roughly 90 seconds of her destruction. A single frame from this footage was later extracted for use as a propaganda photo, mistakenly labeled as the British destroyer HMS Pope. Finally, at 1731, with her decks ablaze and hull listing, Edsall rolled onto her side, showing her red bottom, as noted by an officer on Hiei, before sinking in a cloud of steam and smoke into 18,000 feet of water, about 200 miles east of Christmas Island. The Japanese post-battle report called Edsall's sinking a fiasco, prompting the Imperial Japanese Navy to revise engagement protocols for battleships and cruisers against destroyers. Her final stand became one of the most remarkable displays of valor and tenacity in U.S. naval history, as she fought for nearly 2 hours against overwhelming odds. Even as the ship was going down, her crew continued to fire their remaining operational guns, refusing to surrender. Years later, officers of the Imperial Japanese Navy aboard the cruiser Chikuma reported that several men may have survived Edsall's sinking, found adrift on life rafts, cutters, or clinging to wreckage. However, a submarine alert forced the Japanese to halt only briefly, rescuing a handful before receiving orders to withdraw, leaving the rest to perish in the Indian Ocean. Aboard Chikuma, the survivors were interrogated, and their ship's name was recorded as the Old Destroyer Idosu Ru. Within days, interrogation details were shared with other ships of Nagumo's Kido Butai during their return voyage. Some accounts suggest Tone may have rescued 1 or 2 survivors, but no conclusive evidence supports this. The Americans remained aboard Chikuma for 10 days before being taken to the Japanese advance base on the 11th of March, 1942. On September 21, 1946, mass graves were uncovered in a remote area of the East Indies over 1,000 miles from where Edsall had vanished. 2 graves held 34 decapitated bodies, including remains identified as 6 Edsall crew members and what are believed to be 5 USAAF personnel from Langley. Also among the dead were Javanese, Chinese, and Dutch merchant sailors from the Mojokerto, a Dutch merchant ship sunk on the same day in the same region as Edsall. Some of the executed sailors were identified through forensic analysis and returned to the United States for burial. War crimes trials held between 1946 and 1948 investigated other killings by IJN personnel near Kendari, revealing fragmentary details of the Edsall survivors' executions. However, these were not recognized as such by Allied investigators and were not pursued further. Edsall was officially stricken from the U.S. Navy Register on May 8, 1942. The wreck of USS Edsall was discovered in mid-2023 at a depth of 18,000 feet. The Royal Australian Navy confirmed the discovery, announcing it publicly on Veterans Day in 2024. The commanding officer of Edsall lived up to the U.S. Navy tenet, "Don't give up the ship," even when faced with overwhelming odds. The U.S. Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, said in a statement, "The wreck of this ship is a hallowed sight, serving as a marker for the 185 U.S. Navy personnel and 31 U.S. Army Air Force pilots aboard at the time, almost all of whom were lost when Edsall succumbed to her battle damage." The story of the Edsall is one of the most gallant and valorous actions in the history of the United States Navy. For her service, USS Edsall earned 2 battle stars in the Second World War, cementing her place as one of the most heroic destroyers in U.S. naval history. The legacy of her crew, their bravery, and the ship's final stand against an overwhelming enemy force continue to be remembered in naval history. Their story serves as a testament to the courage and determination of those who fought in the Pacific theater of World War II. The sacrifice of Edsall and her crew remains an inspiration for generations of sailors, demonstrating that even in the face of insurmountable odds, bravery and duty endure. Her memory is honored through memorials and tributes dedicated to her crew, ensuring that their courage and sacrifice will never be forgotten.